Greetings, Variant Nation. 'Tis I, the Tim. Before we dive into today's conversation, I wanted to jump on and let you guys know that unfortunately we had some technical difficulties on the video side, so today's episode will be audio only. We will be returning to video format in the very next episode, but I wanted to make sure to let you guys know why this episode was audio only. With that said, happy Halloween, and on with the show.
What's up, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Variant the Podcast. How you doing, Tim?
I'm doing great, man. Happy Halloween.
Happy Halloween.
Happy Halloween, everybody.
Halloween
Greetings,
talk.
Variant Nation.
We got some variant talk. Well, I guess variant talk, but we got some Halloween talk for us today, which is really fun.
That's right. It's Halloween week, so we are here to talk about our top three, each of our top three favorite Halloween movies
and comics
and Halloween comics. What do you bathe in to get spooky for Halloween? Do we say spooky anymore? Is spooky a word the kids say?
We say spooky.
I don't know. What words do the kids say these days, Eric?
I got a 4-year-old and she says spooky. She actually calls Halloween spooky Halloween.
Yeah.
So I say spooky all the time.
I have to say, and you're following behind me. I'm very proud, actually. I am becoming more a dad by the day at this point. My kids are getting older, but I just find myself more with my kids like, hey guys, this. And they're like, Dad, please, no. And I'm like, no, that's still fun. What are you talking about? I think I'm more of a kid than they are.
You don't play with ball in a cup. I play with ball in a cup. What is this? What is this Switch nonsense? It's PS5 jazz.
But it actually shows, it reflects, because my list, especially for movies, for Halloween movies, for my top three, was extremely difficult. I'm still not thrilled.
You've been going back and forth on your iPad.
I'm still not super happy with it. I'm very, very torn on several things.
I mean,
my list, and this is the main point, my list is very different from your list.
Very different from my list,
and it kind of reflects what I was just saying. Like, I'm kind of, I don't know. I'm still like a 12-year-old boy, I think. It's like, I'm just stuck in a grown man's body.
You got a kind heart.
I'll take that.
You're like, Halloween is supposed to be fun, not about blood and gore, okay?
Well, let's have ice cream, everybody.
That's amazing. Well, I kind of agree with you, though, too, in the sense my list, well, though I have one, I'm not sure I'm 100% content with it because I know I'm missing things.
That's the problem.
There's probably something that I'm going to, like, we're going to be done recording. I'll be like, how the freak did I not put that on my list?
Man.
That is one of my favorites.
Yeah, man.
So, like, I feel like though this is my list, it may not be my definitive list because I need more time to really, like, to make sure I'm not, like, missing anything.
Yeah.
But the things I do mention are obviously some of my favorites.
I try to narrow it down, but I'm of two minds because I have some, like, actual horror-ish thrillers that I really love, but like I gravitate towards more lighthearted kind of, and I guess it's because, you know, my oldest daughter is 19 years old.
Right.
So I've been a dad a long time. Right. So it's like I that has influenced a lot of probably where I'm at. I've spent 20 years watching, you know, movies with my kids.
Right. You're not gonna watch The Conjuring with your 10-year-old.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You know, although, you know, I'll still watch some of those movies now with my older kids, but they've gotten more serious, but still, I mean, I kind of gravitate towards more lighthearted anyway. But there's still a couple that I'm like, oh, that should go on the list. That's a good one.
Right.
So I'm very torn. So, but let's get into it. And
so should we start with comics or movies first?
I think we should start because, you know, that's what we do here on Variant.
Comics.
Let's lead with comics.
Lead with comics.
And
all right.
You give me your first.
My first comic is going to be a pretty obvious one, but I feel like, you know, if you're a comic fan, especially a massive Batman fan like me, it's clearly going to be in there. Halloween is in the title. Batman: The Long Halloween.
Okay, hold on just a second. I've got to edit my list real quick here. Just make this more interesting.
But yeah, Batman: The Long Halloween. It's easily one of the most. If you have any top 5, top 10 Batman comic lists, that's clearly going to be on
without
there,
a doubt.
Just in general, whether you're talking about Halloween or not, it's just one of the greatest Batman stories of all time. Jeff Loeb, Tim Sale. Yeah, it's a reason why all these years later, it just got made into an animated movie, a 2-part animated movie. Yeah. So it's basically like if you watch it all in one sitting, it's like 3 hours, which is crazy. And they did a very good job translating it, I thought. But the comic itself is always going to be better. You know, it's a source material.
Without any doubt.
And man, it's just one of those stories where you get the modern origin of Two-Face in this origin or in this comic. You get to see almost every Batman villain make an appearance for some time, for at least a little bit of time in the series. And you also get stuff like the Holiday Killer, right? And Calendar Man and all that stuff. It's just an all-around solid comic book. I feel like I don't really even have to talk it up much because anyone who's read comics for any reasonable amount of time or likes Batman already knows that this is a great story. They've probably watched the animated movie, if they haven't read the comic, and that enough gets the message across. And it's just really cool. I love how like it's this mystery and freaking, Batman teams up with Harvey Dent and Commissioner Gordon. They're trying to figure out who's killing all these mob families. It's just good. I love it. Has to be on the list.
It is absolutely a top, which is why it was also on my list. But I'm going to actually swap that out just to make this more interesting because I did have a backup. So I'm just not repeating. But that is in my top 3 as well, Batman The Long Halloween, for all the reasons that you cited. Right. It's got such an incredible list of his rogues in there. It's a really well-written, fast, really good, compelling story for Batman. And it takes place over a really specific set of time.
Yeah,
it gives it that ticking time, element where you just feel like the stakes are a little bit higher.
Yeah, they go from every holiday. It's Long Halloween because from like Halloween to Halloween.
Yes.
So it's like that's Long Halloween. But you hit every holiday in there.
Yeah, it's a really good one. So since you said that already, so then I'm gonna switch mine up. I'm gonna add one, and this will be now my number 3. I'm gonna go with Sandman.
Ooh,
is my first.
Before you go any further, I just want to say I know I'm probably gonna get hate for this. I said it before, but I just never really got into Sandman, and it's not that I don't like it per se. It's just there was so much other stuff that interests me that I just never put time to it.
Yeah.
So I've read a bit of it, but it just didn't, it's like watching an episode or 2 of something and then you get distracted. You're like, yeah, it's good, but I'm going to go somewhere else.
Oh, for sure.
I just didn't get pulled in enough, but continue.
Well, Neil Gaiman, the reason that I think that I love it for the Halloween season, just in general, and for those of you who haven't seen the Amazon or the not Amazon, the Audible original, the Sandman, what do they call it? Audiobook.
Audiobook, yep.
Yeah, but it's it's fully produced, so it's it's read by several major actors. Jude Law's in there, and several other really well-known. McAvoy's in there. So you've got some really great performances for the Sandman. That's a great way to get introduced to it if you're not super familiar with Sandman, which I think most people are. But Neil Gaiman did such a great job of mixing mythology and folklore
for sure
in with this really compelling, interesting story about these deities, divine deities, focused around Morpheus, and it's just the right blend of spooky and creepy, dark, just eerie, and like fun fantasy.
Right.
For me, it's that it has such a great balance of escapism and just that eerie, like perfect for Halloween vibe. Neil Gaiman obviously is just a brilliant writer, so I love it. And the mixing in the audiobook for Sandman with the actual graphic novel is perfect for Halloween. So that's definitely
and it's getting a Netflix series.
Yeah. So, which is coming soon, actually.
It is. I'm excited to watch that. I will say that, even though I haven't got really deep into the comics, I do want to watch the series.
And actually, let me correct myself real quick because I said Jude Law does a voice in Sandman. I was thinking James McAvoy, and I said Jude Law. It's James McAvoy, but there's other great cast members in there. Some of the others like Jeffrey Wright, John Lithgow, Kat Dennings is in there. Just great vocal performances, but not Jude Law. Not Jude Law. I misspoke.
Although that would be good.
Although he would be amazing.
That would be great.
But not Jude Law. So it was James McAvoy was the one I was thinking of. But it's a great cast altogether, and it's a perfect Halloween treat.
So that means I'm up next, and the next one I have is a classic, Tim. I know you're going to dig it as well. I know most people listening are going to dig it, and that would be Marvel's Tomb of Dracula.
Oh, yes.
I mean, what is more Halloween than Dracula? There's not, you got like Frankenstein, the Mummy, Dracula, and the Wolfman. Like that's Halloween, right? Those are the classic monsters. But it's Marvel's interpretation of Dracula, which is really, really cool. Essentially, it's called the Tomb of Dracula because his tomb has been opened and now he lives again. And within the series, you have a Helsing trying to go after him and some other people, and they're basically trying to kill Dracula, go after Dracula. They need to put him back in the tomb. But it's just that classic. If anyone who's read it, it's that classic Marvel horror, which basically launched all the Marvel horror stuff for like the 70s and stuff like that.
Oh, yeah.
It basically was one of, if not the most popular things for Marvel in the Bronze Age, at least horror-wise, definitely, for sure. But it's just really, really good. It's a classic, and it's one of those stories too where like you open it and it just teleports you back to that time.
Yeah.
Where just even the way the dialogue is presented.
Yeah.
It's like we open up on a cloudy night. It's overcast, and then you get narration from that, and then it goes into the dialogue of the actual characters, and it's got that some of the most iconic people in comics have worked on it too, like Gene Coleman, Neil Adams, freaking so many freaking people have worked. Marv Wolfman have worked on it.
Stan Lee, editor.
Yeah, so it's a classic for a reason.
Yep.
It's actually highly sought after right now in the collector's market. Like,
not surprisingly,
those earlier issues are going for some money.
Wow.
And it's because I think it's always got. I don't want to say it's finally getting the recognition it deserves. It's always been popular, but I think the collectibles in general this last year, 2020, everything skyrocketed. So it's becoming more appreciated, I guess, even than it already was. And it's Dracula. I just love it. It's Marvel's interpretation of Dracula. I love all their takes on like werewolves and stuff like that, and Dracula and all those classic monsters. So I'm a big fan. Yeah,
and it kind of ties into like what we've talked about on the show many times, like the Universal monsters.
Yeah, which we both love.
We love.
Yeah, we did an episode on that on the Variant
we
channel.
did. We actually talked about that just recently, and we asked you guys if you would like to see us do more on those monster movies, and many of you said yes, you would. So I would love to do more, but I love the fact that Marvel and just comics in general, that they dove into those stories in comics and brought some of those classic vibes to the comic pages and integrated them in. And Marvel did it in a way I think that was really, really fun. Some of the others that you've seen, it was darker. It was meant to be more like, even though that's fun too, like the pulp horror classics and stuff. Some of those are fun. Some of them are really disturbing.
It's true.
Like really disturbing. If you've never seen our Golden Age of Comics episode with Comic Tom, he gets into some of that and why the Code Authority had to come about because of some of these.
Some of those covers, just the cover alone, like that was on a newsstand.
Yeah, almost like shocking that they actually happened, especially back then.
For the time, right?
For the time, yeah. Really, really controversial. But the Marvel, in the way that Marvel did it, especially that classic cover of the Tomb of Dracula #1 by Neil Adams, it's just got such a cool, fun vibe to it. It's hard to beat. It reminds me, especially the Dracula, it reminds me of like the '66 Batman.
100%. You are 100% correct. It gives those vibes all day long.
Yeah. And it's post that show coming out.
Yeah.
So I don't know if they drew direct inspiration from that or not.
Or maybe they're like, if we kind of make it look like the Batman thing, maybe even more people will buy it.
Yeah, because it just echoes that whole thematic, design and look and feel and tone.
But it's like Batman, Dracula turns into a bat, so it kind of just lends itself to. So.
Well, and then to be fair, the '66 Batman series also drew a lot of inspiration from the Batman comics of the time. So there, the design and look there was a lot of similarities there as well. So, but it definitely has that. I think they were definitely trying to play off that, but it works. It works.
Well, what is your next pick?
So my next pick, and this is my addition, because my last one, I'm going to go a little bit off the beaten path.
With your last one.
With my last one. Okay. So the next one is going to be Shadow Man, the origin of Shadow Man story.
So Valiant.
Yep. Now, we've covered Shadow Man here on the show several times.
Shadow Man's a good one. He's a super interesting character.
I am a big fan of that character. We've said that on the show. We both really like Shadow Man. I particularly I think that's one of the better Valiant characters. It might be my favorite Valiant character.
He's definitely one of mine, but especially with the new launch of the new Shadow Man with the new title they just recently did this last year. And so it's really good, really compelling. So
I just love his origin story. I love that New Orleans, that French native voodoo, vibe. I mixed with, the Cajun New Orleans, environment. It just lends itself so well. If you've never seen the movie Skeleton Key, That's a really fun horror movie that's rooted in like New Orleans, and that
movie terrified me when I first saw it.
It's a pretty good movie,
dude. Because spoiler alert.
We don't spoil the movie.
I won't spoil the movie. Okay, all right, fine.
So spoiler alert for a movie that's 20 years old.
The way the movie ends, I'm like, oh no, like it's a downer. It doesn't end well. It's like, well, that's unfortunate.
It's true. It's true. I remember seeing that movie in theaters, but it has the same type of, I guess you could call it, environment.
Right.
In terms like the theme.
My girlfriend at the time forced me to see that movie.
Really?
Yes, because I think I was like 13 or something when it came out.
Oh, so you were really young.
Yeah. But because I don't know, I didn't really start getting into horror. Like I've always liked horror stuff, but I didn't really start deep diving until probably like 15, 16.
Yeah.
So I remember even going to theater being like, man. All right, fine. I'll do this because like you're not gonna be like your girlfriend wants to see it. You're 13. You're gonna be like, no, that's probably gonna creep me out. It's like, no, I got this. I don't want it. It's gonna scare me. Yeah, but maybe it's for the better because now I love horror stuff. So here we go.
Yeah, see, she trained you.
Yeah.
So that whole, I love that mix of voodoo. It just like the Disney movie Princess and the Frog, the Shadow Man character, right? And that whole everything. He's a great character.
Great. He's one of the best Disney villains, I think.
Yeah, and that whole element of the voodoo and all the different rituals and stuff like that.
Ready? Yeah, dude, I just got it in my head now. Oh, you're ready.
And because it adds,
we got voodoo. We got things you never even heard of.
Will you give a poor sinner a hand? Yeah.
So you totally struck a chord with me.
And I thought I was the.
It's a good movie, man. If you haven't seen Princess and the Frog, watch that movie.
It is. It's a great movie. My kids love that movie. I know your kids do too. But yeah, I love that entire culture in terms of, especially when you tie it to, the spookiness of the voodoo rituals and kind of that voodoo culture. I don't know, call it a religion, a faith, whatever they call it, the occult or whatever.
Right. The dark
but
arts.
It lends itself like really well to creepy, eerie
it really
stories.
Does.
And then because you mix that with the Cajun French influence, the French Cajun influence of New Orleans, and that Southern colonial vibe, it's enough to get your hair standing up a little bit, especially if it's done really well.
I think why it's so scary too is because a lot of it is rooted in stuff that's actually like voodoo and stuff like that. That's stuff that people actually practice. They do. So it's like, oh man, so does this really happen? Because there's lots of stuff where people have cases of seeing these voodoo doctors and stuff actually bringing. It's like, I know for a fact that guy died last week, but why is he standing in front of me now?
Right.
Like there's a lot. If you scour the internet, there's cases of that, so it's kind of creepy.
Yeah, I think that really is one of the things that is, it's things like The Conjuring. I would compare it to that.
It's a great horror movie.
Where there's story elements that are, it's like, it's supernatural, it's fantasy, they bring in fantasy vibes with the monsters or the demons or whatever. But there's elements of it, between the people of various faiths and real world things that you are unexplained. I guess you can put it that. Well, we still can't explain fully.
That stuff is always the scariest.
Yeah, that it makes that unknown.
Like,
right, the things that are the unknown are the scariest things. That's why aliens intrigue us so much. Extraterrestrials and stuff is because it's the unknown. The unknown is always the most intriguing, compelling, and even frightening. So movies like The Sixth Sense.
It's another great one.
Right. Things like that, where they get into like the supernatural what if type thing, if spirits exist, if spirits live on.
You know what? I need to watch that this holiday season. Sixth Sense is a good one.
That's a really good movie.
That's a good one.
Yeah, I might actually introduce that one to my 14-year-old daughter. She's starting to get into some of these.
That scene where the kid goes into the bedroom under the bed sheets.
And you start seeing his breath.
Right, but then even, the moment.
Yeah.
That got me. That got me.
It's good. Arguably M. Night Shyamalan's best film.
Yes, for sure.
But yeah, even with going back to Shadow Man, I just love the entire theme, tone, style of the book. I think the character, Shadow Man himself, is great. He's got a great backstory, the lineage of the Shadow Man. I just think it's a really fun, compelling story. Everything about the environment that the character operates in is really fun. And Cullen Bunn, his latest version of the story is really, really fun.
He's doing a great job.
I've actually been reading that one. We've got I think we're on issue 4. Issue 5 is coming out, I think early next year, or something like that.
Pretty gory comic too at times.
It is, but it's really well done. We covered the first. We did exclusives on the first 2 issues of that. Really, really fun. So Shadow Man is my ad.
It's a solid pick. I'm a fan of that one. So that brings me to my last comic pick. So I went with The Long Halloween first, right? Which is, I guess, considered modern comic, but it's still like over 20 years old, right? And then I went really old, like I went to the 70s.
You did.
So for the last one, I'm trying to hit every era. So with the last one, I'm going to go with a more current one than the last few years, and that would be Tom Taylor's Deceased. You know, I am a massive zombie fan. I love zombies. I just think it's fun. And Tom Taylor brought his spin of zombies, even though they're not called zombies, they're pretty much zombies to the DC universe.
For sure, yeah.
In this Elseworld story. We've covered, I believe, every single series Tom Taylor has done for Deceased on the channel. We might be missing like 1 or 2.
Yeah, maybe a very small number, but pretty much all of them.
Pretty much all of them. Definitely all the big ones, like Unkillables, Deceased, the main one.
The primary story.
The primary, for sure. Yeah. I actually think there's probably only like 1 or 2 titles we have. Anyway, point is, we've covered the majority of it on the Variant channel, so you could watch our breakdown of it there if you haven't already. But it's just so much fun, and Tom Taylor does such a great job because it's one of those stories. It's like The Walking Dead and Game of Thrones, where you know people are gonna die, right? Yeah. You know that's kind of like how the story works, where no one's safe. You know that, but somehow, even knowing that, his second, third series in, you're still shocked on some of these deaths. Yeah. Like, because
well, they're really well done.
They're really well done. They're still surprising. They're very gory at times. Yeah. So it's just great horror. It's just really, really good. It's just great storytelling, and it's the perfect mixture of like brutal zombie flesh eating, but fun.
Brutal zombie flesh eating.
Yeah, because you see things like, you know, Batman getting his freaking neck chomped down by freaking Nightwing, or like people getting eaten alive, or heads chopped. Just gory deaths, but it's still fun at the same time. It's where it's definitely rated R, but it's still got that lightheartedness to it, if that makes any sense.
It's almost like a more popcorny is the term I'm going to go. It's like a more popcorn version of Marvel Zombies, I think.
Yeah.
Because it's more lighthearted at times, I think, than Marvel Zombie is. Marvel Zombies, it's very similar, but Marvel Zombies, I think, felt more like a Walking Dead type, whereas
because Robert Kirkman was doing it.
Yeah. There's a lot of similar, so it's a little bit, it's darker in tone. There's more like shocking, like moments. For those of you who have not read Marvel Zombies, I'm going to say spoiler things about Marvel Zombies. So if you don't want to hear that, 3, 2, 1, spoilers for Marvel Zombies. But where you have like Hank Pym hiding T'Challa and is keeping him alive so he can eat his flesh little by little.
Literally chop off his limbs.
Yeah, cut off his limbs and eat him piece by piece to satisfy his hunger. I mean, that's really dark.
Very.
Really like dark.
And the dialogue
horror
that goes along with it. Like he's like, if you were conscious, I'd hope you'd offer up your body to me, but I don't want to find out.
Yeah.
Like he literally says stuff like that.
It's harder because we're friends and I'm eating you, that sort of thing. So it's definitely got him, but whereas Deceased, it's got more jokes. It's, some of it is played for laughs. There's like people that aren't infected. You've got relationship elements going on the side that kind of keeps it going. So it doesn't feel as...
Well, I think the universe, because while the Marvel Zombies is very good and I did enjoy it, I think it's safe to say that the first round by Robert Kirkman is still the best, because there's been plenty of spinoffs and one-shots, where with Deceased, I think every single, spinoff series or continuation he's done has been just as good or even better than the first round of issues. Like DC Unkillables, the main Deceased title. I want to say At World's End or something like that. I think that's another one.
Yeah, World's End.
Yeah. So he's done several, right? And they've all been really, really good, and they're all connected. Like he did a really good job of jumping around at different time periods, or like looking at another group at the same time as this other series took place, and seeing what is Red Hood doing while Bruce was doing this, and all that stuff. Where has Dr. Fate been? Where's John Constantine been? And it all comes together very, very well. And he's even set up things we haven't even seen yet, like with Darkseid and stuff that hopefully he touches on in the future. So I just think his world building, the execution of the shocking deaths, the way it's fun, it's scary, it's a well-rounded horror comic book, and I love it.
Yeah, he did a great job, and you never got confused going to your timelines.
Very well told.
You never got confused, which is definitely the hallmark of a good writer. So yeah, that's a great pick.
That brings us to your final comic pick, Tim.
And as I said, I'm going to go off the beaten path here.
I don't know what it is. I'm actually kind of...
Some people might knock me because it's not actually a comic.
Oh, no. I'm very curious now.
It's not actually a comic,
but it's drawn. There's like pictures, right?
But it is driven. I think it is one of the biggest inspirations for what became horror, scary stories.
Okay.
And even in comics.
Okay.
Edgar Allan Poe's The Telltale Heart.
Okay.
That is one of the creepiest stories.
But it is definitely,
and most influential stories.
For sure. No one could argue that. Edgar Allan
But
Poe,
not a comic.
But not, I was going to say it.
It's not a comic.
But not a comic at all.
It's not a comic.
But not a comic book.
But I added it because I'm breaking the rules a little bit. Because
a little bit.
A lot of it. Because it's so influential, and his work is so influential on a lot of modern horror stories and, thriller stories. For sure. Even things like, a lot of Alfred Hitchcock's works, which are very synonymous with Halloween and spook, Tales of the Crypt and things like that. They all derived a lot from classic writers like Edgar Allan Poe. So I felt, because I do read that every year. My wife is a huge Edgar Allan Poe fan as well. We've got all of his books in our house. We actually read that, and we do that. We'll go through like sometimes we'll do The Raven with our kids and stuff as we get closer to Halloween.
Telltale Heart.
But The Telltale Heart, and actually here at Triune Films, my brother Ryan, he wrote a modern telling or retelling of The Telltale Heart called Tell. It was our very first short film that we did for Triune Films here. I actually was in that.
You were.
I was in my youth,
and I had a cameo in it.
Did you?
I did have a cameo in it.
Oh, that's right, at the party.
I was at the party. I was one of those party people,
Yeah,
getting crunk.
I had a role in that, and produced it, and worked. We worked to get that done many years ago.
You were on the phone being like, "You did what?
Yeah,
what?
What did you do, man? Don't say my name. Don't call me back.
The cops could track this, man."
So if you're looking to see, if you're looking for a little wow, this is what it was like when they first started.
If you I have to say this now. So if you go YouTube, Tell, and you find the short film, you have to do me a favor and comment. Variant the podcast sent me here. Just comment. You don't have to say anything else.
Please do.
Just say Variant the podcast sent me here.
That's right.
So eventually Ryan's like, what the frick's going on when he goes checks those comments? Like, why are we getting so many notifications?
Yeah.
So please do that.
We'll notice if we see a spike in views all of a sudden on Tell, because it's been on YouTube for many years now.
And then see if you could spot my little cameo. You'll definitely see Tim, but see if you could spot my little cameo.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I'll be curious how many people can spot you because of how different you looked at the time.
Different, but if you see a Puerto Rican kid in there, it's me.
Just look for somebody that resembles Arris, possibly, because he looks that different at the time when he was a kid. But yeah, so that's a fun day, and we pulled that. But it's because that story is, along with several of his others, are so influential to scary stories in general. It's so brilliant. It's so well written. It's not even that long, but man, especially when you read it out loud, which is like a tradition. You read that story out loud and get some fun music going.
For sure.
And you read that story out loud. To this day, it is a creepy, creepy story with a lot of deep meaning. So that's my final off the beaten path edition.
It's definitely Halloween. Not comic, but definitely Halloween.
Yes, very Halloween. So that's my ad.
But that leads us into our top 3 movies, horror movies, Halloween movies, I guess, just Halloween movies.
Yes.
What we like to watch during the holiday season, month of October.
I'm telling you, I'm still torn on mine.
With the movies especially, that one was really hard.
I'm having a hard time.
It's hard for me though too, because like we said at the beginning of this podcast, or I said at the beginning of this podcast, even though this is my list, specifically with the movies, I don't know if this is my definitive list, because I know I'm missing things.
I'm telling you.
I know.
After we're done, you're going to be like, oh,
I know.
I left this out. And, feel free to let us know which ones you guys think we missed.
You forgot blah, blah, blah.
Yeah. That's the beauty of this stuff, is everybody's got their tradition.
For sure.
Everybody's got their Halloween movie, the things that they can't go without, around these seasons, whether it's Halloween or Christmas.
Yeah.
That's kind of the fun thing about these lists, because they're all very subjective, obviously.
Yeah. But I decided to go because I love lots of Halloween type stuff. Like I love Hocus Pocus. I love Nightmare Before Christmas. I love all the family Halloween stuff.
Yeah.
I've been watching a lot of stuff with my daughter this year. Like we just watched The Muppets Haunted Mansion, the new one
on
Disney Plus. Yeah.
Did you enjoy it?
I liked it. Dude, Pepe is hilarious.
He's really funny.
His relationship with Gonzo was so freaking funny. But
yeah, he's one of my favorite Muppets.
I think that special made him become one of my favorite Muppets, because I
really
like the Muppets, but I still haven't seen things like Muppet in Space. I know. I'm sorry, guys. I haven't seen it. I know it's a classic, but I haven't seen it. But I love like a Muppet's Christmas Carol and several of the shows I've had over the years. Anyway, I like a lot of Halloween stuff. But with my list, I decided to go mainly more horror, like classic horror, because that's kind of what I kind of grew up with. And so I just wanted to lean more into that. So the first one I'm going to say is one I know everyone or most people are going to agree with. He's an icon of horror, and that would be just the Halloween franchise in general.
Wow. Okay, so the entirety.
The first one for sure. Okay. For sure.
That's a classic.
Yeah, it's a classic. But
Slasher classic.
Yeah, I just like Michael Myers in general. Obviously, there's a lot of like not good ones in there because there's been a lot of Halloween films,
including the new one coming out.
I want to see the new one.
I know you were just saying that. I was like, oh my gosh, dude, I can't believe they're still making these.
Yeah, I even enjoyed. I believe what was it, the Rob Zombie remakes he did for Mike Myers. I even like those.
I forgot about those.
Yeah, dude. So I'm just a fan.
That's a deep cut right there.
I'm a fan of Halloween and Mike Myers. I have like the NECA like 1/4 scale figure and stuff like that. I love that. But yeah, I grew up. It was one of those movies where it's like I wasn't necessarily allowed to watch, but it would always be on TV. So you get like the TV edit version.
The late night USA
network.
But
you know, like back then, or I guess they still do. I don't know. I don't have cable anymore. Everything's streaming now. But they would do the TV edits for movies and stuff like that. Yeah. Where so I got to sneak it in that way.
You got the dumbed down.
The dumbed down version where you didn't get like all the blood and gore.
They took out 2 of the stabs.
Yeah. But because of that, I ended up loving that franchise and a lot of other ones like Friday the 13th, Nightmare Before Christmas, Nightmare on Elm Street, the Chucky franchise. But the Halloween one is definitely one of my favorites just because it's classic like slasher horror film. And it's still freaking going. They all pretty much are.
I cannot believe it.
This one I feel like is the one that's going the strongest, especially that we know we're getting a Halloween Kills this year. And I believe Halloween Ends is coming out next year, 2022. So they were
what?
Yeah,
I thought this was the final one.
No, the next one's literally called Halloween Ends. So it's supposed to be it's ending, but is it ending? So I just Googled it real quick. So Halloween Ends already has a release date. It comes out October 14th, 2022. So it literally comes out October 14th, 2022. So pretty much.
Okay, so
exactly
wait, so
1 year.
This one that's coming out this year.
Halloween Kills.
Okay, that's Halloween Kills.
Next year is Halloween Ends.
Wow, they're milking it.
But is it gonna end? I don't know. When we were watching, what movie when we saw Venom Let There Be Carnage, they showed the trailer for Halloween Kills, and I remember turning over to you and Bobby. I was like, we gotta see that.
So insane.
I love it. So I love me some Mike Myers.
So we're on number 13. So next year's finale is the 13th Halloween movie. That's crazy.
So maybe ending on 13, the unlucky number. What if
that is probably why they did it?
But it's like,
they're not Friday the 13th.
Yeah, they're not.
That would have been more.
That's true. They're not really gonna end it though, because that just means for now, 8 years later, 5 years later, 10 years like Mike Myers, like Freddy Krueger, Chucky. They're such modern horror icons. It would be like never doing another Dracula movie again. You know what I mean?
That's 13 movies,
dude. But that's
crazy. How many Friday the 13ths are there?
I don't know. There's a lot though too. There's a lot of Chucky movies.
All of those franchises.
Movies. Yeah, they've been going on forever.
Yeah.
Nightmare on Elm Street.
We need to put together a definitive list of how
many.
Dude,
they're fun. I love all of them. Though I'm not like extremely well versed in all of them, I love watching them and think they're fun. They're just kind of those movies like, it's Halloween. Of course I'm going to watch this movie. They're just fun characters.
I was never into the slasher films.
No?
My wife is big on the Friday the 13th. She grew up loving Freddy Krueger.
Well, that one, I feel like that one, as far as story-wise, is just a really good concept. I mean, think about it. Like, don't fall asleep because Freddy's going to get you. Like, that's actually really scary because it's like you have to sleep. There's no going around it. Eventually you have to fall asleep, and if you fall asleep, he will kill you in your dreams, which will kill you in real life.
Try not to think about that too long.
It transcends space and time.
Yeah, I never got into them. I don't know. I never really thought about it very much. It was just like,
In the Chucky movies, they're just fun. Like they're like slasher, gory films, but it's just fun to see this little doll kill. It sounds so weird. It's fun to see this little doll kill people, but it's just fun.
Very similarly to what you said about the Halloween movies when you were a kid. They would just be on television all the time. That was what it was like with Child's Play.
Yeah.
They would have that on TV all the time. And I remember just out of morbid curiosity, because it was a doll.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if you remember. Do you remember are you too young to remember the My Buddies?
I had a My Buddy.
Oh, did you have one?
I
Okay.
freaking had one. So I got one for my birthday.
Yeah, I did too. Me and my brother had them.
Uh-huh.
And kid's sister was the other was and my sisters had those.
My Buddy and me. Yeah.
The commercials, My Buddy, My Buddy. Anyway, that's really, I'm sorry.
That's 90s right there.
That's serious 90s right there. So the Chucky dolls reminded me, because I had the My Buddy. So the Chucky was like, dude, that's like, it's my buddy gonna kill me in my sleep.
Yep.
And so we would put it on, and it was like, even as a kid, I remember just laughing, being like, that's so weird. Like, it's this doll that comes to life and just starts hacking people to bits.
It's funny. It terrified me when I was younger. I was like, oh, because I had so many toys in my room. You're like, are my toys gonna come to life and kill me?
Especially when the talking toys started coming out, like Teddy Ruxpin.
Yeah.
Do you remember that?
Yeah.
And it was just like, oh no.
And they would malfunction
It's
in the middle of the night.
It's
like,
one eye starts drooping. Yeah. But so that's, I guess, a fair.
The Halloween franchise in general, just because there's a lot of good ones in there. Obviously, there's a lot of, I guess, stinkers as well. But I'm just a fan of Mike Myers and pretty much all those modern horror icons.
And fun fact, the mask, Mike Myers' mask, was modeled after William Shatner,
who just went into space.
Yes, he did.
He recently went into space.
90 years old.
Crazy.
Dude went to the cusp of orbit.
The final frontier.
Right there up to the brink of space. What a, man, I would love to do that one day.
At 90 years old.
Good. God bless him.
Right. But Tim, what's kicking you?
I'm going classics.
Okay.
I'm going classics.
All right.
Huge fan of the Universal Monsters, as we already said.
So am I.
All right. That's my wife, actually, when the lockdowns and the pandemic started, my wife came up with this fun idea. We started doing Monster Movie Mondays.
I remember that. You're telling me.
We did it for like 2 months, and that was a lot of fun. But one of the all-time classics, one of my favorites, Dracula.
I mean, yeah, who could argue that?
Yep.
It's like, duh.
Yeah, it is.
Dracula.
It's a classic. Bela Lugosi, you can't beat it. It's one of the movies that
Lugosi's an icon himself.
Yeah, it's one of the movies that kicked off an entire genre. I don't even really need to say much about it. It kind of speaks for itself. It's a super, super fun, nostalgic, vintage, classic horror movie where as you're watching it, you can see its influence on so many different movies throughout the genre.
100%.
So that is definitely got to be on my list.
Yeah, no, I'm 100% with you on all of the Universal Monster stuff. Like, if this was a top 10, there would be several on my list for sure. But
it's one of the reasons I was so torn.
Yes, because it's hard. You don't want to do
all. Dracula's got
to
be my number one, but you got Frankenstein, the Wolfman, Invisible Man, Creature from the Black Lagoon.
There's Bride of Frankenstein, Son of Frankenstein. Yeah, there's so many. And the crazy thing about that is, I think I've said it before, we've talked about it before, is like a lot of people, I feel, don't give the Universal Monsters enough credit in the sense that was the real first cinematic universe. Like, that was obviously decades before the MCU and all that stuff. Like, that was, I don't want to say it is the first, but I think it might be the first connected movie cinematic universe.
Yeah. Oh no, without any question.
Yeah,
I believe it is.
I can't think of anything else.
I mean, unless I'm forgetting something, but I believe, that was what kicked off that whole concept.
Yeah, where they would do crossovers and you see them in each other's movies, and it kind of leads into my number 2 pick for movies. Since you said Dracula, I'm just going to stay in the same vein because I have a Universal Monsters one on my list as well, which is going to be Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein.
That is a classic.
I love that movie. Now, while I love the solo Frankenstein movie, the solo werewolf movie, Creature of the Black Lagoon and stuff, I picked Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein, one, because it truly is one of my favorites, but also it's the culmination of like all those Universal Monsters in one film. Because you have Abbott and Costello, one of the most iconic comedic acts of all time, literally meeting the Universal Monsters.
So
Frankenstein, Dracula, the Wolfman, all that good stuff, all in one movie.
And the classic monsters.
Yeah, there's the classic. And with all the, Lugosi reprised his role.
Lugosi is in there. Lon Chaney Jr. is back as Wolfman, son of Lon Chaney, who played Phantom of the Opera, which was, I believe, the first of the monster films.
Another great one.
Yep.
And they're all in there, and it's, it's got the classic Universal horror in there, but it's also really funny because it's Abbott and Costello. Funny. You get the classic Abbott.
That part where he keeps where Costello keeps seeing Dracula for the first time, and he's like,
But he does.
And he keeps wheezing. Every time I die. Every time.
But for people who are watching this, the video version where he goes, he's got the where he does the Dracula like forearm over the face like he's the,
and he walks toward him.
Yeah. So it's so funny.
So
I think it's one of those movies that like it's a classic where it's going to be funny. You're watching it when it first came out, or you're watching it like the 40, 30 years later.
Oh, yeah.
It's a classic. You got Abbott Costello. You got the original Universal monsters. Hands down, that one I could say definitively would always be in at least my top 5. I love that one.
That's a great pick, and I'm almost disappointed that I didn't have it on mine. Yeah, because that is a great one, and we do watch that. We watch that pretty much every year.
Yeah, it's so funny.
So, and this is what makes this list so hard because there's so many good ones.
It's like Christmas movies. Like there's a lot of good Christmas movies. How do you just?
Which we're
gonna
do that too. That's gonna be hard.
That's gonna be hard.
That might be harder. Although. One on my list.
There's one, obviously, I know guaranteed is going to be on there. Yeah, but we'll save that.
And that will lead me to my pick, right? Okay. That would lead me to my next pick, which is it has to be on there here because we watch it every Halloween without fail, and it's Nightmare Before Christmas.
Oh yes,
right. So this is.
I don't think this
went from being a cult classic to just a universally loved classic.
I was going to say, I don't think anyone listening or watching is going to disagree. Obviously, probably maybe one or two, but like 99.9% of everyone listening and watching this is like, yeah, of course, Nightmare Before Christmas.
Obviously. So this is a classic. This is a must watch every Halloween and Christmas for me and my family. Love this movie. Everything about it, from the songs, the characters are all just so memorable. So good.
I was gonna hum that in the background and just give you the theme music.
Just keep going. What's this? It's the vocal performances are all so good, but it's just the style. Tim Burton. It was just such a creative endeavor.
Yeah.
And so different and so fresh and such a cool idea. And they did it at a time where this was like a brand, like the stop motion and the claymation, that it was really, they brought it into a whole new level. Right. And at the time, nobody really knew what to do with it. And that's why I said it was a cult classic at first. Yeah. There was a lot of people.
It was successful, but not like it is now.
But not like now.
Yeah.
And over time, I mean, it's just become massive, absolutely massive. I mean, Disney, have you ever been to, I think we talked about this before. In Disneyland, they do a retheming, I can't remember what they call it when they.
An overlay.
An overlay, thank you. They do an overlay of the Haunted Mansion every year from Halloween, I think it's from September through Christmas.
Yes.
Of Nightmare Before Christmas. It is one of the most fun, well done, cool things I think Disney does across their parks. It's just so well done. It's so fun. And you literally can enjoy it for Halloween or Christmas.
Right.
And it's just perfect. So, and that is kind of my struggle with putting it on this list. I had to ultimately put it on the list because we watch it every Halloween without fail. And we love it so much. But having said that, and I believe I've said it on the show before, I see it more as a Christmas movie than a Halloween movie. So that's why I was a little bit torn.
Oh, do you really?
I do.
That's why I'm flipped on that.
I know. I think we've actually talked about this before. How do you see it? Is it a Christmas movie? Is it a Halloween movie?
Yeah.
And some people see it as a Halloween movie. Some people see it as a Christmas movie.
That's like the debate that will go on for like
it's
decades
like Batman versus
to come.
Superman.
Right. Yeah. It's like you always have no Christmas movie, no Halloween movie.
Right. Yeah. And for me, I see it more as a Christmas movie because it's the nightmare world going into the Christmas world, and everything is, they're integrating Christmas into their world. Yeah. So for me, I kind of view it slightly more as a Christmas movie, but it's like I can't not put it on the Halloween list.
No, for sure.
I mean, it's just so good.
It's really so good. It's probably the Halloween movie I watch the most every year just because my 4-year-old is obsessed with it. She's been obsessed with it since last year, since she was 3. And we watch it even like outside of Halloween and Christmas season. Like it's just one of those, she just loves the songs. So it's just kind of always on. Cause again, those songs from the movie have become some of the most iconic Disney songs ever. Like everyone, you say, what's this? Everyone knows like off the bat. You even do the thing that I was doing earlier, like humming the beat. Yeah. Everyone knows Nightmare Before Christmas.
That entire score and soundtrack
Danny Elfman is freaking genius.
It starts playing in our house in like the end of September, and it doesn't pretty much stop until like the end of December. I mean, it's like, and really we listen to it throughout the year because it's just fun, but certainly in October.
That is a solid pick. Again, I've probably watched that movie like 4 times in October, 5 times in October. Definitely the soundtrack is always on because we have several Halloween playlists that we play through our Google Homes in the house. And there's at least always like 2 to 3 like Night Before Christmas songs in there.
Good.
It's just great.
It's so good. And so now that I've put it on my Halloween list, I'm going to defy myself, even though I see it more as a Christmas movie. I'm not going to put it on my Christmas list.
Well, that is kind of funny, right? You just want to use it. You're like, it's more of a Christmas movie. I'm not putting it on my Christmas list.
I'm going to punish myself. You've already used it. You can't do it again.
Anyway, that I guess leads me to my final pick, which kind of like, I didn't even realize I did this, but the more I'm thinking about it, I kind of did the same thing with my 3 movie picks that I did with my comic picks. So I got like an old, like a kind of modern yet still old, and then one that's like really current.
Yeah.
So I guess Abbott Costello, obviously, that Meet Frankenstein. That's like my old one.
Yep.
Right. Then I have
and a very different tone.
Very different tone.
Yeah.
Then I have like the slasher modern slasher films with the Halloween franchise, Mike Myers, which that's a little more modern but still a few decades old. But all the way to current with my last one, which is only from 2017.
Oh, wow.
Is going to be the remake of It.
Oh, okay.
Yes,
a lot of people are going to
agree with It, with Bill Skarsgård taking on Pennywise the Clown.
Yep.
That movie is so freaking good. For so many different reasons, because it's like fun, goofy, like weird, but also really scary at the same time. It's like this perfect amalgamation of like this weird, trippy, what am I watching? Kind of funny, but oh my God, that's terrifying.
Right.
Like, you know what I mean? And
you'll float too.
Yeah, and Skarsgård just did such a great job with Pennywise the Clown, where I think, Stephen King's Pennywise and It was done years ago with
Tim Curry,
right?
Yeah.
And it was already,
which I would argue is even creepier,
right? And
visually,
and it was already an iconic performance, and for the horror community, a very popular character. But I would say that Skarsgård's performance has, for me at least, and I think some people would agree, has even surpassed that. Yeah. Like so good, and he's become a modern horror classic already. It's only like
without question
3-4 years old, and everyone's like, yeah, Pennywise. Specifically, Skarsgård's performance as it, and I love it. I really love it. And Andy Muschietti, the director of The Flash, is actually the guy who did It chapter 1 and chapter 2, and I'm just a fan, Tim. I think it's easily one of my favorite horror movies in the last decade, for sure. That and The Conjuring are my two favorite horror films of the last decade.
Yeah.
The first Conjuring.
Yes. Yeah. Okay, I have a confession right out of the gate. I have never seen it.
You've never seen it?
I have never seen it.
Oh no, dude!
Now I've seen the classic.
Okay, the Tim Curry.
I've seen the classic It. Because again, that falls into like It, The Thing, those kind of classic 60s, 70s.
That's a good one. That's another one. I'm like, dang it. That's a solid one.
That's a really good one. Again, there's a lot.
There's a lot.
I have never seen the new It. And I know they already had a sequel, and a lot of people were disappointed in the sequel.
Was not as good.
They weren't as thrilled with the sequel as they were.
For sure, the first one, I would say leaps and bounds better.
But I know when the first remake of It came out, you must have heard "You'll Float Too."
Dude,
universally for like 2-3 months.
It was a phenomenon because his performance was so good and creepy. It's one of those performances where you're just always going to talk about it. You're always going to go back, especially in the horror genre. You're going to be like, oh yeah, well, Skarsgård's performance as Pennywise, that's an iconic performance.
Yeah.
Because stuff like, Mike Myers and stuff like that, he's very stoic, doesn't talk any of that stuff. But then you have, oh my gosh, who's the guy who plays Freddy Krueger? People are yelling at me.
Oh,
they're yelling at me right now. He's an icon, and I forgot his name.
You're gonna make me forget.
Are you looking it up?
Yeah, I'm gonna look it up.
Okay, but
you can continue.
He's also voiced a Vulture in Spectacular Spider-Man. Oh man, we've seen him at Comic-Con several times. He's an icon. I love the dude. And I freaking forgot his name. I'm sorry, guy, when we get your name up here quickly.
I'm sorry, guy, when we get your name.
Oh, man, I'm gonna feel so dumb when you say it.
Robert Englund.
Robert Englund, of course. He is a horror icon, and I am sorry that I forgot your name, and I'm sorry to all of the fans out there who are yelling at me because I didn't remember this guy's name.
That guy is a horror icon.
Yeah, he's amazing. He's funny. He's done lots of other stuff. Again, he's voiced Vulture and Spectacular Spider-Man. I love the dude, and yet I forgot his name. And anyway, Pennywise. I would say Pennywise is kind of more relatable in that sense, where Englund's performance is a lot more iconic in the sense where it's theatric. He talks, he does a lot of stuff, he has iconic lines and stuff like that, and Pennywise is the same thing. So I feel like it's more comparable to that, where you're always going to think of Freddy's performance, you'll always think of Pennywise the clown, specifically Skarsgård's portrayal of Pennywise. I'm just a big fan. And I guess I'm going to say you'll float too. You'll float too. There you go.
Yeah, I don't think anybody is going to, knock you for adding that one. That was a very popular addition to the horror genre.
I'm telling you, for the last decade specifically, like the two that stand, I'm sure there's lots of great ones that I'm probably forgetting. But for sure, I know. The first Conjuring, James Wan, and then Annie Muschietti It Chapter 1. For sure. Easily two of the best horror films within the last decade.
Yeah, I think most people probably agree with you on that.
Yeah. Wait,
they were certainly the most popular.
Although, did the first Conjuring come out within the last decade? Am I getting that wrong? Watch it be like 2008. 2008, like, Arris, that came out in 2007.
No,
you're an idiot.
No. We were here in Texas.
Were we?
Yeah, we were already here in Texas. So then it had to be 2013.
Okay.
So yeah, it's in the last decade.
Just want to dot my I's.
Pretty close, actually,
cross my T's, yeah.
8 years ago.
Fake news that came out in 2005. That's more than a decade, you idiot.
Although The Conjuring, that was one of the tough ones for me.
Okay.
I was having a hard time, like, that's such a good one. Because, I am not the biggest on the horror genre just in general.
Yeah.
It's just my wife is a huge...
Yeah, she's a massive horror fan.
Probably
she watches,
maybe a bigger horror fan than you.
Probably. She watches, like, DC-list horror.
Like, for real. like I'm talking about torture, guys. I'm talking about torture. Like, where did you find this?
But a lot of those like B-list horror films they have a pretty decent sized cult following.
They do.
So,
but I don't think she knows that. She just finds these things. She's one of those people that just scrolls through the whatever streaming service she's on, and it's almost as if she's like throws a dart, and whatever just visually, like the thumbnail for the poster or whatever stands out to her. She's like, oh, what's this? And she'll just put it on. And so as a result, whether it's horror or sci-fi, because she's really big into sci-fi too, sci-fi thrillers specifically, she will man, guys, you don't even know some of the things that I've had to sit through because of this.
Well, clearly technique. she's helping that like cult movement there for all those B-list horror films.
That's for sure. She's definitely aiding. But I personally am not, like, if I had to pick a movie to watch, it's very rare that it'll be a horror movie. Usually around Halloween is the time that you'll catch me in the mood to be like, oh yeah, let's watch.
Because it's like, just society is setting the mood for you. Yeah.
The rest of the time, I usually don't. But The Conjuring is one of the more recent films that defied that with me.
So is that your last pick?
No.
Okay.
It almost made my list.
Okay.
There's one other that I just couldn't not put on.
Because that would be a nice round out, because I said
it would.
I said it
would.
And then you say Conjuring, and that would prove the point of like two of the best of the last decade.
That was right there on the runners up.
Conjuring almost made mine too.
Aliens.
Aliens didn't make it? Or
it did not make it.
Aliens is a solid one.
And this is where it goes back to I'm a 12-year-old child.
Aliens, that movie.
No, the one that did make it.
Oh, I was gonna say, I was like, that's not 12-year-old child Aliens.
When you find out what beat it out.
Oh no.
It's like, Tim's just a gigantic child. Yeah.
Mickey Mouse Club's Halloween special. I live up to it. Huh? Mickey Mouse Club's Halloween special.
Not that bad. My final pick is Harry Potter Prisoner of Azkaban.
Oh, I mean, obviously, I love Harry Potter.
Of course. I mean, who doesn't? What kind of an animal doesn't
right, like it's one of my favorite
There's
franchises.
Like a lot of people yelling right now, Harry Potter's overrated. Okay.
I don't even care. Yeah. Harry Potter is amazing. Potter's awesome. Okay, so
now, having said
most
that,
of the world disagrees with you. I love how I'm stirring stuff
You're reprimanding people?
Whatever. I love Harry Potter, and I'm sticking by it. It's not overrated.
Why don't you stop yelling?
I grew up with Harry Potter, Tim. Okay? Yeah. Those movies aged with me.
That's true. You're in that camp.
Yeah,
you're in that camp. I was already a little bit older, but I love the Harry Potter franchise. are my entire family. It has a special place in my heart because I watched it with all my kids.
For sure.
And they all love it. We love it as a family. Having said that, I recognize Prisoner of Azkaban, the Harry Potter movies generally are not viewed as Halloween movies.
I was going to bring that up where they're not, but wizards, witches.
That's what it is.
Yeah.
It, for me, because I'm a 12-year-old, I love like the magical element of it. I love it's wizards and witches and that's but it's a very lighthearted fantasy world, and they
do get darker as they go on though. Yeah.
They do. But as you know, my favorite three are the first three.
Yeah.
Which for a lot of people it's the opposite.
Right.
They like the later films because they get more they grow up, they get more mature, gets darker. I like the first three because of the fact they feel more fantastical.
Yes.
It feels more, mystical. You're in this fantasy world. I love the world building that's done in the first three stories. I'm just such a massive sucker for world building in general. And they do a lot of that, establishing the world in those first few films. And introducing you to a lot of the characters. And in Prisoner of Azkaban, you get introduced to Professor Lupin, who is a werewolf, and that has a lot of that kind of classic, the Wolfman.
Yeah.
There's little couple of tips of the hat in there.
It's a creepy Wolfman, too. It's more lanky and stuff like that.
Yeah. And it's directed by Alfonso Cuarón, who is an absolute brilliant director. And he threw a couple of those nods in there, that I just really love. It's a classic. I watch it every single year. I couldn't get away. Kind of like Nightmare Before Christmas. It's like I watch it every friggin'.
Well, it's funny, like you were saying earlier, what you did with the Universal Monster movies, where you would watch them every Monday during 2020 when everyone, we were all in our houses. I did a Harry Potter marathon.
Yes,
where I watched all the films one each night until I finished them all.
Because everybody, not everybody, but a lot of people did the binging, right,
yeah.
right at the beginning, especially right when everything started. That was the very first thing we binged.
Oh, it was?
Very first thing. We watched the entire Harry Potter franchise.
It was because I was like, I haven't seen them in a while because, they're very popular. They're always on TV. And you catch 20 minutes of it on TV or something like that. But I'm like, I want to actually sit down and watch them from front to back in a row, every night. And I had so much fun doing it. Like it became an event where, every now I'm like, yes, I get to watch another Harry Potter. And I was actually sad by the last one. I'm like, I got no more. I don't have any more.
It's true.
Yeah.
It's true. It's so much fun. You can pretty much watch them anytime, really.
Yeah.
Although I will say my kids like some of the earlier movies around Christmas time, which I think is the most common. A lot of people do because I believe they came out around Christmas.
Yeah, and
commonly,
what is it? ABC Family now? What is it now? Is this ABC Family?
Freeform
or whatever. They do like the 30 days of Halloween stuff. They always play their Harry Potter movies.
Yeah.
But for Christmas too.
But now it's on HBO Max.
It is on HBO Max. We stream them all. But for people who still have cable, I don't know if they're still doing that because I don't have cable anymore. I just have every streaming platform that is out there pretty much. But they do play them during Halloween and on Christmas as well because several of the scenes and things take place during Christmas within some of the films. So it's kind of like The Nightmare Before Christmas in that sense where it kind of rides the line. But Harry Potter, I feel like, is still definitely more Halloween-y. Is that a word, Halloween-y?
Halloween. We're going to make it one if it's not.
It's more Halloween-y than Christmassy.
Yeah, that's kind of goes to the Nightmare Before Christmas thing. Is it Halloween or is it Christmas?
Right.
I would say most people view. I don't know. What do you guys think? Is it Christmas or Halloween? Let us know in the comments.
Yeah, I'm gonna say Halloween.
Most of the people that I have interacted with, they have said Christmas.
For Harry Potter?
For Harry Potter.
Really?
Yeah, most of the people
Am I in the minority? Okay, I'm saying it's Halloween. Let me know if I'm in the minority.
I'm in the minority with you.
Oh, you're Halloween too?
I'm Halloween too.
Okay, yeah, because it just makes sense.
But every time I say it to people, they're like, Halloween?
It's wizards
There's
and witches.
not Halloween in there. It's more Christmassy. I'm like, what? Christmassy?
All right, so
it's got Christmas in I think one or two of the films. They show Christmas time. But I'm like, it's not really, I just don't get it. That's interesting. And you know what I want to do? One of the things I really want to do.
We should make a poll. We should do a poll. Actually, for both. We should do a poll for Nightmare Before Christmas.
That's a good idea.
And a poll for Harry Potter.
I like that. We're going to do this.
Yes.
So watch out for a poll on our Twitter. Is Nightmare Before Christmas Halloween or Christmas movie? Yep. And is the Harry Potter franchise more geared toward Halloween or Christmas?
And then we'll put the results here on an upcoming podcast.
in the next podcast, we'll talk about it. But the other thing I want to do is in Universal, because of course they have the Wizarding World of Harry Potter and the Universal theme parks. At Halloween time now, they transform it to the dark arts.
I saw that this year,
and they
have
do
projection and stuff like
they
that.
have
The
the special
castle.
projection show on on Hogwarts, and they have the Death Eaters come out,
Yes,
and they go around and stuff like that. It's crazy
that.
fun. That's something I definitely want to do soon.
Yeah, you know what? Maybe we should do a variant episode,
dude.
We'll do a variant episode because we've actually talked about going to Halloween Horror Nights too.
Yes,
putting GoPros on us.
We are going to do. We actually were talking. That's another thing that we were talking about doing just before the pandemic happened.
Yes,
and then it just turned the whole world upside down,
ruined everything.
So, but Halloween Horror Nights is back.
It's back.
So
maybe
we're going to do that.
Maybe
we're
next year. 2022. 2022 is our year. It's our year. Hey, that's when the Batman's coming out. So maybe it's the perfect storm of greatness.
For real, that would be amazing. So that's something we can look to do.
But I think that rounds out both our lists, right?
Yeah. So we've got both of us get our 3 comics and our 3 movies. Even though, again, my movie list, I'm still not sure. Aliens and The Conjuring are still sitting right there, and because they also like the Addams Family movies.
Those are good too.
I could just keep going.
Yeah, the Addams. I grew up on the Addams Family movies as well, like the first 2.
Yeah,
not the ones they did after.
No, not the newer ones.
Right. Yeah, the first 2 were great.
Yeah, awesome.
Really cool. But yeah, I guess that brings today's podcast to an end, Tim.
Yeah. Well,
we'll see.
Happy Halloween, everybody.
Happy Halloween.
Hope you guys all have a safe and fun one. And
do we hope they get more treats than tricks or more tricks than treats?
Whichever you prefer.
We'll see you guys next time. We talk about all things comics.